Good afternoon or evening, and welcome to Across the Pitch. We have a very special episode today, and my name is Phil Kennedy. I do need to let you know that Tony Robinson had some technical issues. He will not be joining me today, but I have Accrington Stanley's Ben Barclay on the line. Now, Ben has had an interesting career so far. He spent time with Manchester City's Academy, with the Brighton Academy, also played with Notts County last year before coming over to Accrington in July. So welcome to the show, Ben. Good to have you today.
Hi, okay.
Now, like I said, you came over to Accrington back in July, and since then you've played in 9 matches, including the League Cup. One of the things that I had kind of noticed was that it looked like most of your career you had primarily played at center back. With Accrington, you've been playing more of a defensive midfield role. How has that change gone for you? Is that something that you're enjoying?
Yeah, so like you say, for most of my career from being young at City, I've always been a defender, mostly central. My time at Brighton, again, always played central defence. And I had dropped in and done a few spells as like a defensive midfielder there, so it wasn't completely foreign to me when I've done it this season. Again, at Notts, I played all my games central defender, either in a back 4 or in a back 3. And then this season, when I've come to Accrington, the gaffer, John Coleman, he had a chat with me earlier on in the season and just said he can see me play midfield this year and to sort of position and try and just have a go at it. And I've enjoyed it. It's been something new for me to learn, and I think I'd like to think that I've done okay, and later on in my career I can carry on playing there and then have 2 options, 2 positions.
Yeah, with Accrington, you have Seamus Keneally, who is probably about as good of a guy as you can learn that position from. And Peter Latham was telling me that you've been working with the captain a lot in training.
Yeah, so Seamus is more similar to myself. We both are a bit more defensive-minded, like to maybe keep the ball and keep it a bit safer rather than like long range of passes or driving forward with it, whereas Sam Finley might do that. We don't really get in the box that much, can create stuff, but we like to hold the middle of the pitch and maybe like break up the play and keep the ball for the team. And yeah, so in training, I say I watch what he does and what I can learn from him, and even the other midfielders as well, not just Seamus.
Yeah, and now to kind of go back a little bit towards the beginning of your career, like you mentioned, you started out at the City Academy. That was all the way back in 2004. So you signed on with them when you were 8 years old, and it looked like you were with them through 2013. So tell us about that time that you spent with the City Academy. We'll kind of just go through your career here, team by team.
Yeah, definitely. I joined City, when you say I was about 7 or 8, till I was 16, when you go to sign your scholarship. So from being 9, I think you sort of start the academy more seriously rather than 7 and 8. So I think we used to do maybe 2 or 3 evening sessions a week after school. So like maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then we'd play a game on the Sunday. It never really ran as a league up until you got to youth team football here in England. So it'd always just be friendlies, but they were still competitive, definitely. And you'd play again like.
Sometimes those friendlies are the most competitive games out there, because those are the guys that you built up friendly rivalries with over time.
Yeah, definitely. There was certainly a few clubs that, from being 9 to 16, we'd play maybe each team 2, 3, 4 times a season, and they'd be as competitive every year. So we had, for example, maybe Everton, Liverpool, and then obviously United, where they were our three big rivals, and every time we played them, it was something to look forward to. And when you're at that age and not having a league, you train, you go to school 5 days a week, and then you train in the evenings, and then that's what you look forward to on the weekend. It was on a Sunday morning. We'd do that.
And I bet that by the time you're playing the same team the fourth time in the year, that there might be a higher number of yellow cards in those games.
Yeah, there's even friendlies, and maybe being 12, 13, 14 years of age, there was still some red and yellow cards going on there.
And then after that, it was 2013 that you moved on to the Brighton Academy, and you were with Brighton from 2013 through 2018. You played Premier League 2, Division 2, 2017-18. And then Premier League 2, Division 1 in 2018-19. And it looks like those were some pretty good squads. They both finished third.
Yeah, like you say, the season we played in PL2, Division 2, we got promoted that season, and I actually picked up quite a nasty injury. I was out for about 7 months that year. I got back at the end of the season. I only played the last 5 games, but from maybe the November time through to the end of that season, I think it might have been 18 to 22, 23 games following into the next season without being beat. So we had a really good team, and I think we went on to the playoffs that year and beat Aston Villa in the final 2-0 at Villa Park. But if it hadn't have been for maybe a bit of a slower start, I think we'd have easily won that division.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that was a strong team, because I was looking at you played 12 in 2018-19 in the first division. There, you played 12 matches, 1,080 minutes. The club was a +8 while you were on the pitch during those minutes. So definitely, those are numbers that it looks like you were playing a big role in a strong club there. One thing that you did mention there was the injury. Tell us a little bit about what happened there, and working back from that. I'm sure that was probably a difficult thing early in your career to have a major injury like that.
Yeah, it was probably my first real test off the pitch. Really, on paper it wasn't really a big injury. It was just the cartilage in my knee. But the way the physios dealt with me, they didn't want to go straight to surgical procedure to try and fix it. So they tried to work around it. So with me being young, they didn't want to take the cartilage out of my knee. Only at,
right.
I think I was only 20, 21 at the time. So with having another 10, 15 years left on my career, I think they wanted to try and leave it in there and strengthen certain areas of my body and try and adapt. But they tried 2 or 3 different methods, and it didn't seem to settle it. So eventually I had to see a knee specialist, and I had to have surgery on it. So they just took a bit of the cartilage out where it had a tear, and after that I just had to rehab it back up, and then I finally got back on the pitch. But that season, was...
Yeah, so it sounds like they were trying to have you avoid surgery and see if they could have you strengthen it up, and it just didn't quite work out, and then you inevitably did have to have the surgery. But the good thing is you got that right and got back out onto the pitch, and then now last season you played for Notts County. And this was something I wanted to talk to you about, because that certainly had to have been a rough season, because you came in there to a club that was really struggling and then ended up getting relegated. What was it like coming into a team that was having such a difficult year like that?
Yeah, so like I said, in terms of off pitch, my injury was probably one of the hardest things to cope with. But then on pitch, that 5-month spell or half a season at Notts when I was there, that was really tough. So initially I went in, and I'd just come from a squad at Brighton. We were flying high, we were winning games, and in a like a positive mood around the place in the changing room between the squad. To then go into the Notts County dressing room, and you could sort of feel the difference straight away. There wasn't much like confidence within the squad, and we were finding it hard to pick up results, etc. As you can imagine. And
it was really night and day for how the two clubs were performing. Because just kind of going back to those stats that I was mentioning earlier, you basically had half the season at Brighton, half the season at Notts. You played 1,080 minutes with Brighton, 1,065 with Notts, so almost a half and half. With Brighton, like I mentioned earlier, you were a +8 in your time on the pitch. Notts County, in almost that exact same amount, you were a -11 while you were on the pitch there. So it seems like you were going from a team that was having a lot of success to a team that was just going in the complete opposite direction. And I'm sure that like you said, that was probably the toughest thing that you've had to deal with on the pitch, especially with Notts being a team that had so much history at the football leagues and being sent down to the conference for the first time in 150 years. I'm sure that what was it like, kind of having to be with the supporters going through that? I'm sure it was probably rough there too.
Yeah, definitely. I think being one of the players that was on loan and it wasn't my actual parent club, sometimes people get like the perception you might not try as hard or it might not mean as much. But I think knowing how much it meant to the supporters, how the history of the club, I think everyone within the squad wanted to do the best and give it everything to try and keep them up. Obviously, it didn't happen because we had a tough task. I think we got it down to the final day. We at one stage in the 90 minutes, we were up, and then I think we equalised, and the other team in the other game had scored. But like you say, it was difficult for us, and we did really want to do it for the club, for everyone involved and the supporters, most importantly.
Yeah, I definitely I don't understand that mind frame of those fans that you mentioned that they think that a lone player is not going to care, because I mean, this is your career and your livelihood, and you certainly didn't get to play at this level by not caring. And to me, every time you're on the pitch, that's your chance to go out there and shine, and I'm sure that you look at it that way.
Yeah, definitely. I think all footballers, all competitors, every athlete, we're all competitive. You don't. There's no point being involved if you don't want to win.
Right.
So winning's obviously the first objective. So we're at the bottom of the league. We're not going to win the league, but you go on the pitch the next time to win that game. And obviously it was to try and keep safety of the club, but that didn't happen, unfortunately.
Well, now this season you've come over to Accrington, and now Accrington at 17th in the table is probably not exactly where they wanted to be, but they're also looking like, based on how things were with the season went on hold, that they were going to be in safety. And then I saw the interview that you did when you first came over to the club in July. And you said that right now, at this point in your career, your biggest goal is getting league minutes and getting that experience out on the pitch, correct?
Yeah, that was correct. So coming away from playing in the under-23 division with Brighton, I thought the next step I need really in my career is to play as much first team as possible, whether that's at Accrington or elsewhere. I found myself at Accrington over in the summer.
And now you've signed with Accrington. You're not on a loan. You're signed with Accrington, correct?
Yeah. Just 1 year I signed.
So kind of getting back to Accrington and what we were talking about earlier, I see that you've played some at the deep midfield position, and then you've even played some at the central midfield position where you've been. You've kind of gone between, I guess, what they would call the number 6 and the number 8 role. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I think with the formation that we play, we own most games. I know there's been a few. Most games, there's been just two central midfielders. So you find yourself having to sort of do both jobs, maybe a bit more running to fill the pitch between the two of you. So when there's two of you, yeah, maybe one holds back a little bit and the other one gets to express themselves going forward a bit more. But when there's two of you, there's never really one that really sits in front of the defence. But then again, like you say, when I've played with Seamus, I think it's
Rotherham and Tranmere are the games I had marked down that you played further forward.
Yeah, so with when I've played alongside Seamus, and then maybe the other midfield has been Sam or Sadu. Yeah, having Seamus sort of anchor the midfield a bit, it's given me, like you say, a bit more license to get forward and open my legs a bit, maybe make it to the edge of the box or creep into the box, which coming from being normally a central defender, it's been quite enjoyable getting a bit further up the field.
So one of the things that Peter Latham did want to have me ask you was what you thought that your best position is going forward. Do you still see yourself as a center half, or do you see yourself as being more of a midfielder going forward?
I've had quite a few people ask me this throughout the season. I would have said the earlier months of the season, I would have said straight away I'd like my central defender role back, and I feel much more comfortable there, and it feels a lot more natural. But as the season's gone on, even during training, when we do training games and stuff where I can get in that midfield position, because in training I have, again, just predominantly been as a midfielder. So that's been good for me to sort of learn the position, learn some habits, learn how to play there, and things are becoming more natural for me. It's more of a it is more difficult, I'd say. It's more of a, not just physically like having to run, but it's more 360. So you sort of have to know what's around you 360, whereas when you're playing central defender, everything's in front of you. So all you need to know is side to side. So that would be like the thing I find hardest about it. But to answer your question, going on in the future, I really don't know. I'd like to think that I could have both positions in my locker. I do still feel more comfortable. I feel like if you slotted me back into central defence, of a 2 or a 3, I don't mind playing on the right of a 3. I would feel more natural going straight back into there. Wouldn't have to think about my positional play too much.
And you're right-footed, correct?
Yeah, right-footed. Yeah, so on playing in I prefer right of the centre defence.
And then one thing I did want to ask you about is of course, Yasser had the injury right before things went on break. And Yasser, of course, is Mark Hughes, but I've discovered that everybody calls him Yasser and nobody calls him Mark.
Yeah.
Had the gaffer talked to you about playing more in the center after he went out, or had things not really gotten that far?
No, he hadn't mentioned anything about that. I think the squad that we had quite a depth of play that could fill in for Rosa, and even Ross that were injured. So Harvey's coming, and every time he's coming, he's done great. And Adji can play there, Jerome can play there naturally as well as left back. So there was still players that could play there. Phil in the squad, his experience, he can certainly still play there. So I think he still has numbers that could do that job.
Yeah, well, absolutely. The club has a tremendous amount of depth on the back line. Especially with Aji, like you mentioned, he's a natural center that has played out of position at left back. So I think for like you said, for getting him into the center back position, and you really. Like you said, you seem to have really kind of come under the captain's wing and taken a bit of a liking to the deep center field, and that's kind of where I see you at myself from what I've seen. And I think you kind of have that nose for the ball. I mean, one of the things that we always talk about with the captain is you won't necessarily see him piling up the stat sheet, but if you watch the game and just follow him around the whole game, you'll get tired just watching him. That's kind of how you are. I've really been impressed with your play, especially in some of the games where we're like Blackpool and Burton Albion. You had I thought those were the two games that I had really worked out that caught my eye for me. You seem to be in really good form there around those Boxing Day matches.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like maybe my first couple of games, I was still learning the position. So even when we went away from the games, I hadn't played there and was just training, I was still learning. And then I might have had a spell where I wasn't in the team. And then, like you say, when I come back into that period around Boxing Day, I felt, I agree, they were probably two of my stronger games.
Yeah, and in both of those games, those were both wins for Stanley. Those were both clean sheets for Stanley. You had several, you had 3 tackles won in each of those games. So those were games where you were just really kind of getting all over the field, and then they were good results for the club as well. So those were the two that I had marked out that I had kind of as your signature performances for the year so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, one thing that we do here, and this is normally Tony's part of the show, but since Tony isn't here today, I'm going to go ahead and do it for him, is we do some fun questions where these are just kind of a yes or no, true or false type of thing, and it's called rapid fire because we just give the questions real quick, and there's some north versus south stuff in here. So let's see. Just let me know when you're ready. We'll get started with rapid fire. Now, I always mess up on trying to pronounce this, but you're from Altrincham originally, which is outside of Manchester. So you'd be on the northern side of things. Just south of Manchester, really. It's pronounced Altrincham. Okay, yeah, I with my American accent, no matter how many I try, I just can't quite get that one. But okay, so rapid fire. The first question is: do you prefer brown sauce or red sauce on your bacon buddy? Brown. Mushy peas or garden peas? Ooh. I think it depends on the meal, but I'll go mushy. Mushy, okay. Tony's a big fan of mushy, so he'll like that answer. The Beatles or the Rolling Stones? Oh, I don't really know either too well. I'll go the Beatles. All right, and then Oasis or Blur? Oh, Oasis. All right. And then we have a couple of North American-centric ones. Tony is actually originally from Accrington. He lives in Canada now. However, in Canada, the signature food dish is called poutine, which is chips, gravy, and cheese. He thinks it would be a hit in Accrington. Is that something you'd like to have them serve at the concession stand? Yeah, 100%. I don't. That sounds good to me. Maybe we'll argue. And then Phoenix, Arizona, and we're really into hot and spicy foods. We put jalapeno peppers on our pepperoni pizza. Would you like to try a pizza with jalapeno peppers? I'd maybe have half. I'm not the best with spice. I don't mind. I would like to try it, but it depends how hot. So I'd maybe have half of it and see how I am after that. It's good stuff. My recommendation is to go with the pickled jalapenos and not the fresh, because the fresh ones are real hot. You might be better off with the pickled. Okay. Yeah. I have to try them ones then. Joe Bursick actually said that he likes pineapple on his pizza. Is that something you would try?
No, not for me. That no.
No, most people is. And then Yasser Hughes, he wanted us to ask red or white wine.
Ooh, again, it depends what you're having it with. I'm split. I'll say red.
What do you have a favorite type of wine, maybe? I hear that Mark is a big connoisseur. So is there a favorite wine that Mark has turned you on to?
I'll just go with a Malbec.
All right. And then our last one, which is a brand new question that we added this week. Are you planning to watch season 2 of Sunderland Till I Die?
Yeah, I will give it a watch. It's not top of my list, but I will give it a watch. I've watched the first series. What
is something you've watched recently that's top of your list that you recommend for the listeners?
Oh, 100%. If you're on Netflix, Ozark. Series that's just come out. Yeah.
I think one of our co-hosts, Aaron Ayers, may have mentioned that. So give us 30 seconds on why we should watch Ozark.
Oh, I'd say Ozark is what it's about or why I'd recommend it.
Just, kind of why should people watch it? Or why do you enjoy it? What do you enjoy about it?
I think I really enjoy the storyline. It's different to anything I've sort of watched before. It is crime, but it's not like, I can't describe it. Yeah, like I say, it's something I've never really watched, but I really enjoy the storyline. I think there's some really good characters in it. I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. I mean,
There's just some really good characters in it that play good roles. The storyline's good, and I've got 5 episodes left, so I think I'll watch 2 or 3 tonight, and maybe finish it off tomorrow night.
With no football on, we've been trying to kind of give our listeners some TV recommendations to fill in. So yeah, I think they might have to check that one out because you're the second person to mention Ozark. So maybe we'll check that out. But let's go back to football for a few more minutes here. And one of the things that we like to ask folks, especially someone like you who maybe played at one of the bigger academies, are what's the biggest difference between Accrington, Stanley, and some of the other teams that you've played for?
I'd say where Accrington maybe lose compared to other clubs to gain other areas. So say, for example, at Man City and at Brighton, the facilities there are both like outstanding, probably top 5 in the whole of the UK.
Oh yeah.
So their training grounds, their stadiums, they're immaculate. The pitches are unbelievable. The resources you have there are the best. Whereas Accrington's not that, but then at Accrington it feels much closer, like a tight-knit group from not just the players but the staff. And what I've noticed mostly is especially the fans. I feel like there's a relationship between the players, the staff, but with the fans. So that's where they'd gain on the other clubs I've been at.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things we had David Burgess on the other day, and he was talking about that when guys come from the bigger clubs, they're used to having like chef cooked meals and things like that, and then you get to Accrington and have to make your own breakfast. And he said that at first some guys don't really like that, but then they come to like it better. Has that been kind of your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I was at Brighton, I used to roll out of my bed into training and everything was there for me. It was cooked. And then here I have to sort of commute an hour or so to get in and make my breakfast before I leave. So that took some getting used to start with. But like you say, things are good now and enjoying it. So
I think that helps out with the kind of family atmosphere that you mentioned earlier, where, if you and the other guys are in there, making your coffee together and things like that, that forms a kind of bond that transcends what's on the pitch and forms a connection for you guys off the pitch too.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about that. It's all about being able to go on the pitch with whatever 11 are on the pitch and having, like you say, a morale and a bond to perform to get the best result possible.
And now we understand that John Coleman takes a pretty hands-on approach in terms of recruiting. Tell us a little bit about your first meeting with John Coleman and how he reached out and let you know that he was interested in signing you.
Yeah, so I think it was coming right to the end of the summer. I think pre-season maybe even started at Accrington, maybe 1 or 2 days. And I had a phone call through someone who helped me out, someone who helped me find Accrington, and they just said, basically, I've spoken to John Coleman and he'd like to go down for a few days training. So I went down, this is literally the next day. I had no other option, so I had nowhere else to train or trial for pre-season. So I went in the next day and just did my first training session with them. It was a double session, and I remember going home at night and I was just tired. And it sort of just led from there. So after only maybe a week of training, he said, like, yeah, we're looking to offer you something then. And then a couple of weeks down the line, they like made the offer and like sorted the contract and stuff out. And then again, another week or so later, it all got signed really before pre-season was closed. So it was all quite smooth and there wasn't any hiccups. So it was good.
So was Accrington Stanley someplace you were already familiar with and kind of had your eye on, or was that kind of your first experience of Accrington?
No, that was definitely my first experience. I had a friend that had come on loan here before, and but to be honest, I'd never really asked him and said, "Oh, how was it?" and stuff. I sort of just as soon as the option came along, I just snatched that and just headed straight there the next day, really, and started training with the squad.
All right, and then once you got to Accrington, did you feel like it was a place that you want to spend some time at going forward? I mean, I know you said that your contract is just a 1-year deal, but if Accrington offers you a contract here going forward, could you see yourself playing a few years with Accrington?
Yeah, 100%. I think as soon as I come in, really, even before I'd signed anything, just after a couple of days, I could tell like the squad as a whole is quite a young squad compared to others I could imagine. But like I could feel the energy within the squad. There's a lot of characters that, and the changing rooms are having a laugh, are bouncing around, and that's what you need really. So yeah, straight away I knew it would be a good place to be for the year. There's a lot of good lads in there, and it's always a fun place to be in the dressing room throughout the week. And like you say, yeah, I'd definitely look to stay here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like you said, you're coming in at a great time because it is a younger squad. I mean, Accrington has had a lot of success over the past few years with winning promotion from League Two, but certainly some of those older guys like Billy Key, of course, retired, and Scott Brown has moved on, and Jordan Clark's deal is up at the end of the year. So some of those older guys are starting to leave the club, and it sounds like you've come in and are working with Seamus towards maybe becoming a fixture in that deep midfield position with him for the next few years, I'm thinking.
Yeah, definitely. I would. It'd be something I'd be happy to take on and try and fulfill his shoes. I know he's been here for quite a few years now, and he's the captain of the club. And it'd be exciting to try and replicate, but I'd have to, carry on training and watching him and learning things from him.
It's not a better guy to learn from than Seamus, and not a better guy to learn from than John Coleman and Jimmy Bell and their staff, because I mean, you just can't. You can't go anywhere else and learn from a manager that has 4 promotions under his belt.
Yeah, definitely. I think from my first pre-season game, under the gaffer, I think one of the first things he said in the team talk was what we spoke about all pre-season from the first day till now. And the first thing he said, and what I've learned from him, is the winning mentality that he has. He just, no matter what it is, he wants to win, whether it's playing cards on the bus, to trying to chip a ball into a bin, to trying to have a penalty against one of the keepers at the end of training. Everything he does, he just wants to win, and he just takes that into the squad for a side day.
I've heard those card games on the bus get pretty intense.
Yeah, I've never been involved in one. I don't really understand the game that they play, but I've seen a couple of the boys get involved. I think a couple of the boys might normally team up against a couple of the staff, and they'll have a game. And I don't know what game it is, but it seems to last a while anyway. And there's a lot of cheering going on.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Coleman, like you said, everybody just describes him as the ultimate competitor. And I think it was Bobby Grant that had said that, Sean Coleman makes you want to run through brick walls for him. And I think that it's just every player that we talk to, really has that mentality of just leave it all on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree anymore. Like, I think the way he manages us as a squad and treats us and motivates us to give everything on the pitch, you don't really want to let him and the rest of the staff down. So, like Bobby says, you find yourself on the pitch. You feel like you've got nothing left in the tank, but there might be 10, 15 minutes left, and you just find something to just keep going, and you can almost like feel it coming from the sideline, the passion, and from the supporters. So yeah, you just get yourself through it somehow, whether you're coming off the pitch with some bad cramp or a nasty cut or a knock, but you do it for the rest of the boys, him, the squad, the staff, and supporters.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it just seems like everybody at Accrington has that we're all in this together attitude. Everybody from Andy Holt, the chairman, all the way down to the ball boys, every single person in the dressing room is just on the same page.
Yeah, I feel like it's a real hard-working club, if I could describe it. Like, we don't have all the flashy facilities and all that, but what we do have is like a lot of people in the club, not just players, staff as well, that work like 100% to give everything. And I think you've seen that to see where the club is now, being in League One. And
absolutely.
Hopefully staying up last season, and hopefully the same again this year when the season carries on. So that'll be massive.
Absolutely. I mean, just for this club to be in League One and having the success that they are. And then also the other thing that we talk about is, how Accrington is often voted the best away day by other fans, and the shirt program that Andy has where he gives the Accrington shirts to all the 8-year-old students in the area. I mean, it's just, there's so many negative stories that you read in football these days that Accrington is one of the positive stories, and that's why we like telling it so much.
Yeah, I agree. I've noticed that from my not even a year at the club yet, but yeah, everything just seems to be good, and they look out for everybody really. It's not they don't just look out for the club itself and the players and the staff here. It's a lot of work goes into the community around it, and visitors and, like you say, away fans, everyone that comes there, everyone that visits.
Yeah, because in England, when you take a team like Accrington, it's not just a sports team. It really is part of the community, and that the club takes on the personality of the community in a way. And Accrington is just a hardworking industrial town, and that's kind of the what the mentality that the football club takes on.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you say, everyone within the community and everyone involved there works endlessly, and I think that's what keeps the club going. Really, having people like that around it and supporting it. So that's massive.
Exactly. Well, all right, Ben. I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. But before we do wrap up, was there anything that I had missed that you wanted to talk about, or any questions you had or anything like that?
No, there's nothing really I wanted to ask. Just that you're all okay over there and staying safe at this difficult time and keeping well.
Yeah, absolutely, and we definitely hope that you and your family are keeping safe over there, because it's right now it is just like you said, it's such a difficult time where anything football is secondary, and it's just about keeping everybody safe and healthy, and with these shows we're just really trying to offer people a little bit of distraction for 45 minutes a day where they can kind of sit back and think about football again, and not have to worry about everything that's going on. And I really appreciate you taking the time with me today, and hopefully we can do it again sometime in the future. And like I said, I think that I look forward to seeing you in the Accrington midfield here in the years to come.
Yeah, hopefully so.
And if it's not at Accrington, then wherever your career takes you, we'll be rooting for you over here at Across the Pitch, and definitely want to hopefully talk with you again in the future.
Yeah, definitely. It's been fun and enjoyable. Hope you enjoyed it too.
Well, thanks, Ben. I'm glad to hear that. And Tony couldn't make it, but he wanted to have me say hi to you from him and from everybody here at Across the Pitch. And we always finish up with an "On Stanley on."
Go on, you do it first, and I'll follow you. I'll say.
All right, here we go. On Stanley on.
On Stanley on.